melt away and resolve.
Yeah. It's a surprising thing, when people say that to you, you're like, what? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
but
it doesn't.
Honestly, when you try it and when you just kind of watch your emotions and just kind of let it flow through you, it really does just... It's Yuntaku time with Akko and Tamo.
What does Yuntaku mean? It's an Okinawan word from the islands of Okinawa, which means chit-chat. We want to invite you to our kitchen table and include you in our chit-chat to explore new ways of thinking, to welcome different perspectives,
and we want to share ideas on how to love yourself, love your partner, and shower your children with love.
This is episode 11.
And the topic of the day is daily check-ins with your partner. But before we get to that, let's talk about our recent happenings. So, Tamo, you want to go ahead and...
Sure. Our recent happenings was that my parents lost their pet dog. They really considered her as a daughter. And so it was a really painful experience.
Yeah, you guys had 15 years.
Yeah, 15 and a half years. And now it's just the two of them at home. And because all the children have left. So yeah, we decided to get together at a park, all the family to come out. And then my parents got to see their grandchildren play together. So it was a really nice time. We had a little outdoor kind of a picnic. And it was a really nice time. And I'm sure that it really helped them heal and just continue to process their grief. So yeah, I think it was a great time for them. I know it was a great time for me. I was quite busy just because running after all the kids and making sure that they're not getting into trouble themselves, especially our daughter, she's a tornado. And so yeah, it was really fun. And I think the kids had a lot of fun. So it was really nice to all get together and have a great time.
Yeah.
So you had mentioned today's topic of the day is daily check-ins with your partner. So start us off.
Yeah. So what kind of just brought us to this was, checking in with our parents. And then we just started thinking that, we always check in with ourselves. We always check in with our partners. And so we just wanted to talk about that, checking in with their partner on the daily so that we can support each other the best way possible. And so what we usually do is we check in with ourselves first just to make sure we're okay. There's no unsettling issues or energy that's kind of in our body still. So we deal with that first, and then we ask our partner, how they're doing, how they're feeling, everything okay, emotionally and physically.
And especially when you get to know your partner better and better, there are many times that you actually feel them more than they're aware of. So for example, I may be agitated and not really conscious of being agitated, but you would feel that I'm agitated, and you'll ask, everything okay? How are you feeling? And then when that's asked, then I have a chance to kind of wake up from this unconsciousness and check in with myself and say, oh yeah, I actually am agitated. Just being very honest with how we're feeling with each other. So yeah, I am feeling a little agitated. I wonder why. Okay, it's because of blah, 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 blah. And then that itself, the agitation really starts to melt away. And it can be that with any other emotion. It could be very positive emotions or negative emotions. It can be sadness or whatever it is. Bringing that up and talking to each other about that really is quite helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it lets us know how to support you in the best way by asking you, okay, how can I support you, whatever you're feeling?
Right. And by asking that, it gets us, the person who's being asked. So for example, let's say that I have an aura of agitation. So I have an underlying kind of agitation for the day or at that moment. And you ask me, hey, everything okay? And I kind of touch in with myself and say, yeah, actually I am agitated. And then by looking at it, oh, I am agitated. Oh, it's because of this. It really, again, like I mentioned, melts things away. So it helps support me because I get to clear and resolve the agitation or whatever the emotion is I have. And then you can bring that light to the agitation, right? So what if I'm feeling agitated, you'll look at it with your, let's say, call it light. You bring that into my darkness because I'm saying darkness because I'm conscious to the agitation. And you'll bring your flashlight and flash it onto the agitation. Yes, I am agitated. Great. And that light again melts it away.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it really helps. I feel supported when it happens and I'm like, oh, okay. And sometimes, again, like you were saying, we're unconscious. And so sometimes when you're asked, oh, are you okay? And sometimes they're asking because they're feeling something. You can ask them, oh, what kind of energy am I giving out? You can ask them.
Yeah.
And sometimes you might just still be like, I don't know, am I feeling this way? Like, or I don't know. And you might just be unconsciously unconscious of how you're feeling. And so sometimes it's just better to, for a lack of better word, let go and just say, you know what? Yeah, maybe I have to check in with myself a little more, a little deeper.
And you can always come back and say, oh yeah, I was. Yeah.
Or, you know, it could just be nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's always good to actually check back in with yourself just to make sure that you're not unconsciously unconscious of what you're going through.
Right. Yeah. And this may be a little bit more advanced relationship skill. But for example, when we first start, being asked that could trigger more agitation, right? So let's say you're agitated. Oh, is everything okay? How are you doing? Can agitate you more. Or if you're sad, like you just don't want to talk to them, you shut down. And that could be, let's say, stage 1, right? And then the more communication and trust you build with your partner, then you can just say, oh, no, I'm not agitated. But then you kind of think about it a little and you go, oh, you know what? I actually was agitated. And being open enough to say, hey, you know, actually I was agitated. Thank you for bringing it up, because then I was able to resolve that.
Yeah.
And then you're still unconscious about being unconscious, right? So you're still at this level, you're still unconscious of being unconscious to the feeling, whatever it is. And then you become a little bit more competent. So you go, oh, I was unconscious. So you shed one layer of unconsciousness. And then the more work on yourself you do, the more meditation, the more communication you have with your partner, then you can be like, oh, I think I'm unconscious right now. You start to catch it sooner and sooner and sooner.
Yeah.
And then now either we catch it ourselves, or when you ask, we're already like, okay, I wonder why you're asking. What is this? And then we can share with each other, oh, it's because I feel like there's a little bit of anxiety. I feel a little anxiety from you. And you go, that's right. And then we can kind of discuss why that's happening.
Yeah. It opens up the conversation. Yeah.
And that's why I think Akko brought up a really great point when she said unconsciously unconscious. And so what Akko was mentioning when she said unconsciously unconscious in this situation, she was mentioning the 4 stages of competence. It's really a great model. And the 4 stages are, if we use the technical vocabulary, it's unconscious incompetence, first stage. Second stage is conscious incompetence, then conscious competence, and then unconscious competence. So briefly, what that means is, in the beginning, you're so unconscious, you don't know that you're unconscious. So you don't know what you don't know. That's the first level. You don't know what you don't know.
Yep.
And the next stage from that is you're conscious about your incompetence. So you go, oh, I know that I don't know. And then you can start to work on whatever it is. If it's playing tennis, you get to really learn each fundamental steps of tennis. Then you go into conscious competence. You know what you know because you've been practicing it, and then you're able to kind of demonstrate that skills. Also, for example, if it's tennis, you're showing swings in the proper form. And then once you continue to practice that, it becomes unconscious competence. What does that mean? You practice so much, it's second nature. Things happen naturally. And for Akko and I, that's where we're trying to go with figuring out where we're at in terms of checking in with ourselves. We're kind of awake to our emotional state, our physical state, what's going on in our minds, so that when we check in with each other, things are a lot more smooth and, oh, that's what's going on.
Yeah. Because a lot of times I can be very emotional. Females have hormones that it's kind of hard to control. So then sometimes I have to think, am I just being hormonal? Am I just being emotional? And I have to check in with myself, because sometimes that can play a factor, and not necessarily a good factor that plays in. It's usually a negative thing when that plays a role, when emotion or hormones plays a role. So I always have to check in. Okay, am I being hormonal? Am I being emotional? And then I just have to always check in, just so that I know whether the emotion that I'm feeling is coming from the right place, or I know where it's coming from.
And that itself can really resolve a lot of the emotions. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even guys, we can be very moody. I know guys that are very moody, but using the same principle of checking in with yourself, okay, I'm feeling this right now. And then you're kind of watching that feeling, it really resolves it. So this is a great method. Just watch and feel it, and don't fight that feeling. So for example, for me, if I'm feeling agitated, I don't fight the agitation. Oh, I shouldn't feel agitated, or I can't feel agitated. That's wrong. Don't think like that. Instead, you're like, okay, I'm agitated. Oh, I'm agitated. I'm agitated. Okay. I'm watching it. Oh, I'm still agitated. Okay. Okay. You're just watching it. And then it starts to melt away and resolve.
Yeah. It's a surprising thing, when people say that to you, you're like, what? That doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
But
it doesn't.
honestly, when you try it and when you just kind of watch your emotions and just kind of let it flow through you, it really does just dissolve on its own.
Right. And the beauty of it is you are able to resolve the emotion sooner. It passes by sooner, passes through faster, and also it leaves a lot less kind of residue.
Yeah, that's true. Because that residue can turn into some type of
Right.
trauma, and that could pop up in the future.
Right.
And so always resolving your emotions is very important when it comes to your life.
Yeah. And so that's why it's so important to know your state and being able to check in with yourself. And for me, I really like the quote, know thyself. And by knowing thyself, then the communication that I can have with you, with others, really improve and continue to improve. Because if I'm in a negative state, let's say, I'm frustrated or maybe I'm anxious, if I can catch myself being that, then I can say, oh, okay, maybe I need to take a quick time out for myself. Let me watch this a little bit. And then I can begin communicating with you or, talking with you and things like that.
Yeah.
And we get to the point now where I will tell you during the conversation, oh, actually, I am feeling a little agitated. So, and then I do say, hey, I'm a little agitated. And then you can take that information and say, okay, all right, I understand. And you can respond accordingly and you can support me through that. And it zaps away.
Yeah, and absolutely. So yeah, you really just need to know what you're feeling and know how to support each other.
Yeah.
And it just really helps, like you just owning what you're feeling.
Yeah. And you've also mentioned something that you've learned in the parenting class, right?
Yeah. So this can even be done in parenting. Usually for younger children, they don't know how to regulate their nervous system. And so what happens is whatever they're feeling, it just comes out. There's no filters. It just blurts out. And the parents are the one that are supposed to really regulate their nervous system. What I mean by nervous system is regulate their emotions. Regulate whatever they're going through. You need to help them cope with whatever emotion that they're going through. So you're pretty much modeling what you want them to learn. And as you grow older, hope that they can learn from that and they can do what you are modeling. But there was a parent of a 8-year-old, and she was talking about how there was a bedtime routine where it should usually only take 15 minutes, but it was just taking an hour. And this mother had mentioned that she was always so busy. So throughout the day, there's only maybe 15 minutes that she has with the daughter. And she was just saying there's really no time for herself. The only time for mama time is only 15 minutes in the morning. And then throughout the day, there's like maybe 15 minutes for her daughter, and then the rest is pretty much work. And so this bedtime that was supposed to be 15 minutes, the daughter somehow prolongs it so that it's an hour. And at that time, the mom is frustrated. She's like, you just need to go to sleep now. And then she's frustrated, that emotion comes out, she's more angered. And so she was asking our instructor, what she can do. And interestingly, our instructor said, you need to meditate. And her definition of meditation is you need to know how to check in with yourself. So she was our instructor was explaining to us how every morning what she does before she even gets out of bed, before she says hi to anyone, she checks in with herself. She scans her body to see if there's any emotions or any energy that are lingering, and she clears it up before she could even see anyone. And she does that actually 8 to 10 times a day. So she does it before she talks to a client, before any kind of event that she is going to go to, or whenever she feels, she scans her body. And so she was offering that advice to this parent and saying, I know you only have 15 minutes in the morning, and that 15 minutes that you have for yourself is reserved for exercise, but she says it's actually much more important for you to try to scan your body, and it won't take that long. She was saying in the beginning it takes a little bit longer, but as soon as you get used to it, it can just be a 2 to 3 minute thing where you scan your body and really know what type of feeling you're feeling. You can just dissipate it. And so that's what she was saying. And she was also saying that whatever emotions they're feeling, it transfers into the child. And the child takes that emotion and doesn't know how to regulate it themselves. And so they start to make a story in their head, blaming themselves for making mom feel this way. And that creates a little bit of a trauma, and that's never good for the child. So bottom line, she was pretty much saying you need to know how to check in with yourself and really know how to deal with your emotions. So meditation is key when it comes to regulating your nervous system, regulating your emotions. And so she was suggesting that to all parents, whether you have only 5 minutes or whether you have an hour, whatever time you have, you should allot it to that meditation because it's that important.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. And one thing that I want to share for our listeners is we use the word trauma here and there, but the definition of trauma that we currently have is trauma is something that has happened to us that shouldn't have happened, or something that should have happened but didn't. That second one is something that people usually don't think about. So again, it's something that has happened to us that shouldn't have happened. Okay, that's trauma. Or something that should have happened but didn't happen. And I think that's a really big one during childhood. So for example, like you mentioned, maybe that 8-year-old child is looking for more love from the mother. Maybe it's focused attention, just being with the child.
Yes.
And maybe he or she is not getting that. And so that could also be trauma because she should be getting that. And of course, I don't like to use the word should, but in the mind of the child, they're needing it. They need that, but they're not getting it. And so that's why when they act out, it can be a sign that, hey, mom, I'm needing you, but you're not hearing me, so I'm going to have to scream louder or do something weird, something that will attract your attention.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
at least I can get that attention.
Yeah, absolutely. You made a great point. And it really comes down to your child needing you. And your child will usually let you know what they need when they're younger. And it comes out in bursts of emotions if it's not given to them.
Right. And so again, as parents, we want to be very keen on what the child is wanting and just kind of being observant. They don't speak yet, then just kind of be observant on what they're asking for. And if they speak, have a conversation with them.
Yeah. And so again, really the point that we wanted to make is that checking in with yourself, scanning your body is very important. And you can even try this with your little one. If you have a toddler or whatnot and they don't really know what they're going through, you actually let them know, I know you're frustrated. It's okay to be frustrated. Mama's here for you. You can do that, throughout the day, whatever emotions they're feeling, and you're modeling that for them. And you're regulating their system, their nervous system by doing that.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point, the regulating the nervous system. So let's share with our listeners 2 techniques to regulate the nervous system. The first one, the best one is breathing, right? Taking deep breaths. And a good one is when you take a deep breath. For example, for breathing, what you want to do is exhale twice as long as the inhale. So if you inhale for a count of 3, exhale for a count of 6. Let's actually try that.
Yeah.
All right. If you're driving, keep your eyes open. But if you're sitting down or doing something that's safe, please close your eyes and then we will start. So close your eyes and breathe in 2, 3, and then we'll be exhaling 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we'll inhale 2, 3, and then exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One more time. Inhale 2, 3, exhale 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And that is a fantastic way to regulate yourself by breathing. And this can be done anytime when you're even listening to someone speak, or it can be when you're going out for a walk, when you're working. Anytime this can be used. So it's a really fantastic technique to regulate your body. The second one, like you mentioned, is scanning your body for emotions, because emotions do appear in the body, right? So it might be tension or pain or any type of feeling within the body. So you want to localize that, figure out where that is, and just watch it. And so those are the 2 methods you can use in order to regulate your nervous system.
Yeah, well said. So just to piggyback off of the second technique of scanning your body and seeing where your emotions appear, your emotions, whether it's anger, whether it's happiness, whether it's sadness, it appears, like you were saying, somewhere in your body. And For some people, anger could be in your throat. Like for me, it's in my throat and my chest area. And a lot of my emotions are usually around that area. But for some people, it could be elsewhere. It can be more in the solar plexus. So you would have to know where your emotions come from so that you can check in with that specific area to see if you're actually feeling anything.
Yeah. Thank you so much for bringing that up. That's a great one. And I'm going to piggyback on that piggyback. And for example, myself, when I'm kind of stressed out, it appears on my right shoulder. Really interesting. It's the trapezius muscle, but that's where it appears. So I'm always constantly letting it go, relaxing that area so that I don't carry tension there. And so it's going to be your job to kind of figure out little by little when emotions come up, you take note of it. Okay, oh, I'm feeling angry. Oh, this is what anger feels like, or this is what sadness feels like, or this is when I'm happy, I feel this way. And you really start cataloging your own body and emotions.
Yeah, you really do. So I invite everyone to scan their body and just take a few minutes. Just scan your body, close your eyes while taking 3 deep breaths or more.
Yep. And so we have a question for you. How do you check in with your partner?
We'd love to hear from you. Please comment on our YouTube channel by searching Yuntaku Time.
All right, till next time, take care.
Bye.